Kansas Jayhawks get, I guess, a form of retribution at home, beating Arizona 83 to 76 on senior night. Uh, in a game that, man, it didn't feel quite as close as I think the final score shows. It never really felt like Arizona was ever going to win this game. I don't know if you feel any different, Subi, but for me, this seemed like tip to finish Kansas.
There was a little bit of a thought that crossed my mind, but then I snapped back into reality. It's like Arizona doesn't win these tight games on the road. And then I talked about some of the difference makers and the X factors in the preview. And then you're like, they actually kind of stunk. Anthony Delorsa, we'll start with him. He only had 3 points. He was non-existent. Only took one shot. He hit it great. Had an assist, couple turnovers, but he was just a ghost out there. Yet again, it was reminiscent of the Iowa State game. And then Henry Visar, who has been tremendous this season, really got bottled up in the front court. Only took 3 shots, finished with 5 points, had 4 fouls. Those two guys were not able to make their imprint on the basketball game. And look, I'm starting on the Arizona side, but this was a Hunter Dickinson masterclass.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, right? Vsar, I don't I don't think you can take anything away from what he did except for the fact that he couldn't stay on the floor. He played 16 minutes in this game because of foul trouble. Um, you also have to look at the bench. Like if you're asking me who showed up, it was Jaden Bradley and Trey Townsend. Obviously, I would say that Tobe Awaka showed up. He had nearly a double double in this game. Um, KJ Lewis and Carter Bryant shot a combined 2 of 12 from the floor, 0 of 6 from deep in this game, in a game that Arizona lost by 7.
KJ
Um,
Lewis's shot selection was preposterous
no,
this game.
it was ridiculous. They didn't turn Arizona, and I'm not going to say Arizona turned the ball over a lot. They didn't. They only turned the ball over 8 times. They only forced 5. They had 3 more turnovers, or I guess Kansas had 3 fewer turnovers, um, to the tune of 8 more points off turnovers in a game that Kansas won by 7. Uh, they had 6 more offensive boards to the tune of 9 more second chance points in a game that Kansas won by 7. Like you can look at it any way you want in terms of who showed up. At the end of the day, the winning on the margins, getting the offensive boards, forcing turnovers, those things all went Kansas's way, and the points that came from them all went Kansas's way. If you look purely at shooting, they shot the same as a team from deep, basically, as Kansas. They shot the same overall from the floor, basically, as Kansas. Uh, Kansas actually took half the amount of free throws, or I guess 2/3 the amount of free throws. They made half the amount of free throws that Arizona made. It was just 13 of the what 36 defensive rebound opportunities that Arizona had went to Kansas. You mentioned Hunter Dickinson. He had a double double, 33 points, 10 boards.
Yeah, I don't really need to. I don't think we need to overcomplicate it, to be honest with you. At least from my perspective, he was easily the best player on the floor. Every look that he got was kind of in his wheelhouse, and he was also hitting relatively tough shots. But man, you go 15 of 23. He poured in what? He had 10 rebounds total. I mean, he only shot 4 free throws too. Like this was a pure ethical hoops type of game from Hunter Dickinson. He just tortured Arizona's defense to the tune of a 33-point double double, right? And
And
then
what about
also, go
and what
ahead.
about this? I'm probably bringing up the same thing. The three wings for Arizona shot a combined 3 of 13 from the floor for 11 points in this game. Zeke Mayo shot 5 of 9 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the stripe for 20.
Telling you, man, you and I had somewhat similar thoughts. I think you acknowledge that Arizona's defense recently wasn't all that great, but I think you're like, look, it's not that bad. I think there's somewhere a place we can meet in the middle because I did say, look, this if you're Zeke Mayo, you lick your chops, man, because this perimeter defense and you on the schneid, like you're struggling a bit. This is your game, and it was. He was tremendous from three. He only missed two of them. He went 5 of 7, finished with 20 points. And the one thing that I was looking forward to in this preview was, hey, I don't think I thought Arizona was more cohesive, was a more cohesive unit. Um, I didn't see any splitting apart at the seams from Arizona, and I'm actually going to get to that a little bit. But Kansas actually banded together. I thought that they got hit in the mouth. They faced some adversity from Arizona because they were cruising at home and they found themselves down like 1 or 2. And you're like, are you kidding me? Are we going to let this slip? They came together and they ended up winning the game. And I give credit to Kansas for doing that. But yeah, Zeke Mayo, this was a get right game for him.
Yeah, and also defensively. Rylan Griffin did not play fantastic on either end of the floor. He shot 2 of 8. He had 7 points. I think a lot of that honestly had to do with the fact that you couldn't play Coit or AJ Storr in this game. So he was just on the floor for 35 minutes in this game. But Zeke Mayo defensively also played really well. Like it's 20 points. It was also 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and a steal. And just not giving up a ton defensively. Um, and I think that's where, like you mentioned, there was 2 players in this game for Arizona who were on the floor that actually were playing okay defensively. And like Tobe Awaka was okay for what he had to do. Uh Trey Townsend was okay for what he was asked to do. Carter Bryant couldn't stay on the floor because he wasn't doing anything for you offensively, but like defensively, when he was on the floor, it was okay, but just okay compared to Anthony Delorso, whose defensive rating in this game was 155. His stop percentage was 0.
Yeah, I mean, he just brought nothing to the table. He'll never bring defense to the table, but at least he'll
No.
give you maybe a 7-0 run.
Yeah.
Gave me 3 points. I thought so. Look, I
Caleb
will
Love was
shout out,
bad defensively.
which has been shot, which was a little surprising. I'm going to say this in all earnestness. He's been a very good defender this season. I feel like simpletons want to just be like, oh, put ball in hoop. Like that's all that matters when it comes to Caleb Love. Like he brings a lot more to the table. He wasn't that great defensively though in this game. You're right.
All right. So we could go over this game. We're heading into conference tournament season, Subi. This game at the end of the day doesn't really mean much. Um, let's talk about what this means for both teams. Let's start with Kansas. We could take a lot of positives out of this. Hunter Dickinson had a Hunter Dickinson game. Zeke Mayo is back offensively. KJ Adams did KJ Adams things. DeJuan Harris got you nearly, he had 9 points, 9 assists, which I feel like is like the ultimate DeJuan Harris game, like not a double-double, but close in both metrics. 8 minutes from AJ Storr, 0 for 4, nothing else. Piss poor defensively. 9 minutes from David Coit, 0 for 3, 1 foul, but nothing else. Piss poor defensively. Flory Badunga got his 14 minutes, 2 points, but you're not really going to play him when Adams and Dickinson are playing as well as they were in this game. This was a great win for Kansas. I don't think it did anything to alleviate the concerns that people have about this Kansas team heading into Big 12 tournament play and NCAA tournament play.
So I'd agree with that. There were some vintage performances, like you had mentioned. I'm glad you brought up KJ Adams, who, by the way, had himself like his own dunk contest. He was just throwing down every time he touched the ball. That's more of an Arizona's interior defensive issues. But you saw Zeke Mayo get off the schneid. You saw a vintage Dickinson type of game. And I agree. Like, I don't think you can take a ton away from a home win on senior night against an Arizona team that's just been super average in the last 10 games or so. But if you want to be an optimist, Connor, they are the 6th seed, I think, in the Big 12 tournament in Kansas. And so they'll have winner of Utah and someone. And then they get Arizona again in the quarterfinals if they win that first game. So you could arguably see yourself in the semifinal game. You win one more, you get the home crowd behind you, and all of a sudden you're in the Big 12 title game. The path is there for a strong, deep run in the Big 12 tournament for Kansas. Not saying that this Arizona game, a rematch would be a slam dunk win, but there's a little bit of a path going forward.
Yeah, no, obviously, and March is all about matchups, whether it's the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. So if they get the right matchups, if they get a team that's going to let Dickinson just get every touch in the post that he wants, and then also get some open shots from deep, like it's going to be game over for that opponent. Um, to me, and we came in, and I picked Kansas to win this game. But I do think that this is more about the concerns I have for Arizona at the end of the day than like answering my questions about Kansas, because I don't think we got a true answer to like Kansas is still not deep. They have a what $1 million player on the bench that can't do anything. Like that they had in this game 3 of the 4 best players on the floor.
Yeah.
And so but then after that it's just big question marks, right? It's the KJ Adams isn't going to shoot from deep. He was fine, but Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, Zeke Mayo were 7 of 10 from deep, and then you were 1 of 11 outside of that for Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Arizona, it's the okay, this defensive thing is a real issue. Like it's a trend now. If you're not getting a vintage Caleb Love performance, or you're only getting 1 shot from Delorso, you're not winning games.
Correct.
And behind Visar and Awaka, you really got nothing on the interior. Like Trey Townsend did okay, but he was kind of forced into some of those situations. Like,
Yeah, I actually thought Trey Townsend played well relative to how he's been playing this entire season. But you're
yeah,
right, as it relates to like the interior. Trey Townsend was hitting jump shots. He was
yeah.
hitting 3-point shots, right? So no,
Oh, I'm
I
talking
totally agree.
defensively. Trey Townsend offensively was phenomenal in this game compared to
Okay.
what we've seen
Yeah,
from
yeah,
him
yeah.
this season. Defensively, he was okay. Like he got you
I,
7 boards. He got you, a couple of key stops. Like that's what you need from him. But he's not going to be, and he's not going to be a Visar or a Waka. And those two, I think, just showed that they're a tier or 2 below guys like Dickinson,
yep.
guys like KJ
Yeah.
Adams.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. On the flip, so I talked about the outlook moving forward for Kansas, at least as it relates to the Big 12 tournament. For Arizona, I actually still believe in their cohesion. I think they like each other. I think they fight for each other. They fight back in games, which is not something you could always say about every iteration of Arizona basketball. Even in this game, they fought back. Like they're not going to get blown out. I think they've really only been blown out twice this year. Soup to nuts against Iowa State, and then you could argue against Wisconsin, maybe argue against Duke, but I don't think so. But really, like between 2 to 3 times they've been blown out all season. All right. So they're going to fight for each other. But here's what I'm going to just get off my chest real quick, Connor. I'm so embarrassed to be a part of this fan base sometimes. It's so annoying and tiresome and obnoxious. After the game, we got local media going after Kylan Boswell because look, Boswell somewhat initiated it. There's history here. He's obviously an Arizona transfer to Illinois, but he tweets at a local media guy after Arizona loses the game. And then the local media guy just decides to sort of drag his name through the mud about extracurricular activities that Boswell had while playing at Arizona. True or not, I'm not here to speculate that, but it was mudslinging at its finest. So like, how do you go from losing against Kansas to fixating and mudslinging about a kid who's transferred? All right, it's so embarrassing to be a part of. And then Tommy Lloyd after the game basically said there's a gap between Arizona fans and like McHale Center and Hilton Coliseum. and where they just played in Allen Fieldhouse. And instead of sort of taking that as a challenge, or not personally, because the Fog is one of the greatest places or toughest venues in all of college basketball. Same with Hilton. I got Arizona fans basically saying, I can't believe Tommy Lloyd said that. It's because like senior night was at like 11:30 p.m. Blah 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 blah. They're getting their panties all in a bunch. The on-court players are sticking together. This fan base is a disaster, man. And winning 4 games in March would do all of Southern Arizona some good, including myself. But dude, we are coming apart at the seams, and it's embarrassing to be a part of. I hate being an Arizona fan sometimes, man. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
Yeah, I agree. It makes no sense. And in response to that, I will say, if I'll say from experience for Gonzaga, so if McCarthy or Kansas or Purdue or some of these other teams with really good fan bases had senior night at 3:30 in the morning, their stadiums are filled.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're at least their students are showing up. Their stadiums are showing up. Like you could sell out Fog at 3:30 a.m. for senior night if you really wanted to.
Yeah. And
Um,
go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, just yeah.
We saw something similar with Alabama, who, by the way, like historically speaking, Alabama's basketball fans are not going down in the history books. Okay. But Mark Sears, who is gutted out, giving you his all and taking you to a Final Four, helped contribute to it after the Florida game. You can't stick around for Mark Sears. Right. Like there are, and I don't know if Arizona fans stuck around or not, whatever, but like we get so insecure, man. Like, do you want to be regarded as a top 12, top 10 program ever? Well, you got to show out and show up. And I'll be honest with you, man, McKale Center, in my time there, it is different and it is quieter. It is not as crazy. And I'll tell you what, I'm sure fans that came before me would say the same thing about my tenure and my college days of like, hey, when Subi was in the crowd, it wasn't as good as when it was for me. Figure it out, man, and like stop turning on each other. Although I suppose that's what I want to defect from this Arizona fandom. I just don't have a life raft yet, man.
Yeah. So here's something for you. So Bart Torvik has Arizona's defense on the season at 31st in the country. Since February 1st, Arizona's gone 6-5. Their defense has been 51st. Since February 15th or 16th, Arizona has played 6 games. In the last 3 weeks, can you guess what their defense is ranked? And I'm going to tell you, you're already guessing too high.
Oh, all right.
You're
Then
already
like,
guessing too good. What?
wait. When you say too high, like,
You're already thinking it's better than it actually has been the last 3 weeks.
no, I don't believe that. I like
Okay.
this. The last 3 weeks has included that BYU stretch, right? Like that
Yeah.
BYU game. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
So
I'll say like 120.
you're already too high. They're 181st in the country in defense per Torvik over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. It doesn't try. It's an issue, man. And you know what? I'm not.
They are 5th offensively.
Yeah, they've been fine putting the ball in the hoop. Oh my gosh. I haven't seen a comprehensive, like, both offense and defenses look good in what it would appear 3 weeks. And you know what, fans, whoever's listening to this, I'm not carrying Tommy Lloyd's water. I think he's got a lot to figure out, even offensively. Like the half court offense isn't that great. You got Anthony DeLorso putting up tour dates and like not even tour dates. He's not even shooting the basketball. But I don't like when Tommy Lloyd after the ASU game was like, you know what? Maybe the code's been cracked on us, or maybe it's a little bit of luck. I hate the little bit of luck nonsense, dude. Like, look inward a little bit. This isn't just oh man, they shot so well because it's Arizona. Like it's just so woe is me, defeatist. Yeah, that doesn't shock me, Connor. That does not shock me. You know what? Let's round it to a good. They're 200th in defense. I'll just say that. Last 3 weeks,
It's
disaster.
been bad. It's been bad. They are of any top 30, so they're 30th in that stretch. The only other two top 30 teams that are outside the top 100 in adjusted defense in this time frame are North Carolina is 12th overall on Torvik in the last 3 weeks. They are 101st defensively. We know that. Riley knows that. Riley complains about that all the time. Purdue in the last 3 weeks is 2-3. They're 135th in the country defensively. It's just been, but like the difference between their offense and Arizona's offense is minuscule. Arizona's defense is atrocious.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think
And
it's
just
just
very quickly, Connor, when you have that bad of a defense, you can't couple it with being a terrible 3-point shooting team as well. Like,
no, and it's everything, right? They are 265th in the country in effective field goal percentage defense. They're 305th in the country in turnover defense, and they're 272nd in the country in defensive rebounding. It's everything.
mhm. This is not a dangerous team in March. I'm here to tell you that right now, unless something drastically turns around. They're not. I think I talked to Dion. I'd give them an absolute max ceiling of Sweet 16 appearance.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at bracket matrix for a second because I want to see this is going to change probably, but they're right now, I think, in the 5 or 6 range, or they were in the 4 range, but they're looking like they're going to drop to like a 5 or a 6. Let's say they're a 5 at best, so that they're playing the worst possible team they can play. That would be a 12 seed. You're looking at teams like Drake, UC San Diego, McNeese, Liberty,
Dude,
right?
I do not want to play Drake. I can tell you
No,
that
or
much.
UC San Diego. Like you're
I'd
talking
get
about a team that needs to be perfect offensively to beat Drake, UC San Diego, McNeese, and Liberty. Perfect. Why? Because those 4 teams are going to chew you up and spit you out if you give any sort of sense to them that they can take advantage of your defense.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is also a program nobody, let's put it this way. Nobody should like not be taken seriously. I've seen them lose to Clemson in Los Angeles, which is Arizona territory. I've seen them lose to Princeton. Obviously, I've seen them blow an 8-point lead to Xavier and like Trayvon Blue, and they're like the 11th seed or whatever. It doesn't matter, Connor. They got to figure out, or they got to take whoever they're playing seriously. But I don't know. Just the outlook, I would say, for these two teams in the long run. Kansas has Hunter Dickinson. That's pretty sweet. Hopefully
If
Caleb Love goes
Kansas's
hot.
starters can stay on the floor, Kansas can be dangerous. And I don't think they're vulnerable to an upset as long as their starters are on the floor. I don't think it necessarily matters who's on the floor for Arizona. The past 3 weeks have shown us that you just score on them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll
So
see. We'll see moving forward, man. Thank you
good
for
luck to
this. Was
you.
therapeutic. Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Maybe we'll be
uh,
back talking more Arizona in the future, though.
well, no one else is going to want to take them, Suvi. It's too
Yeah,
depressing right
I'll do it.
now.
I'll do it.
But you will have them because you have the Big 12 tournament as part of Sleepers season previews or season previews, conference tournament previews. I'm not part of that, but I will be back for the NCAA tournament. So for that, I've been Connor. He's Subi. Thank you for tuning in to Sleepers. Man, Kansas is looking up because their starters are looking good. But Arizona, man, it's dire straits.